Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the BFF podcast, brought to you by RMK Productions. I am your co-host, Crystal.
I am Kaisha.
And on today's episode, we have very special guests that are going to be continuing to share their story with us, Thomasina and Roberto. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Hi.
So, Thomasina, I'll start with you. So last week we were talking about natural hair or hair in general, and how when you started dating Roberto, it was a whole thing about learning about your hair. So what is your hair is natural now, correct?
Now it's natural.
Natural. Oh, yes, girl. Yes.
It's not done, but it's natural.
I love it.
Yes.
Our hair defies gravity. So
yes,
how can we not be magical? So how long have you been natural?
I went natural in 2015.
2015. And Roberto, what do you think about the natural hair?
I wasn't crazy about it at first, but at the end of the day, it's not my hair. So, but I've thought, you look at her and she's still gorgeous. So it's like, that doesn't matter, honestly, as long as she's happy with it. And I know it's too, like when she would talk about less stress with the maintenance and go into these, maybe a different kind of stress, because now she has to put all these things in it that make it more healthy. But it seems like since she went natural, she's in a better overall state of mind with that when it comes to her hair and stuff. I don't know. Am I speaking out of term there, hon?
No, I think it's accurate. I mean, I'd show you the spots where I would get burned by the relaxer, and it's like, he's like, why are you putting this stuff in your hair? Why are you doing this? And I was like, because I look fabulous. I mean, I'd call out if my hair wasn't done. I mean, it was just ridiculous.
Yeah. I think that's an episode we should definitely talk about Black women and our hair. But I went natural I had been natural for a while, but I got my locks. I actually have locks, for the people who don't know. I have sister locks, but I'm doing some stuff. So the sister locks, I know.
It's like a campaign of bring back the lock.
Listen, yesterday someone asked me, do you still have your locks? And I'm like, yeah, I do. Don't worry, there will be a big reveal. Okay, we're gonna have a coming out party.
What does natural mean? So it's funny, okay, because I've gotten lessons myself about hair, about Black hair, and women with, doing different things with their hair and stuff. What is natural actually defined as? Like, what do you guys see natural as?
Thomasina, I'll let you answer first.
For me, natural means whatever texture grows out of my scalp is the texture I leave my hair. I do not put texturizer in my hair to loosen the curl. I am happy to be nappy and proud of it. Like my hair is, to have the ability, like this was something to be ashamed of when I was growing up. And to know that I have the ability to have my hair in this texture. I have a fro hawk, which I absolutely love. And to know that if I wanted to, I can go, I wouldn't do it, but I could pay someone to straighten my hair and I could come out looking like Rapunzel bitch if I wanted to. Like, to have that versatility, it's no wonder other people hate on us. We're fucking fabulous, bitch. Like, don't get the shit twisted. It may take all fucking day, but I love that versatility. I love that. And so I used to think changing the color made you not natural, but I don't, as long as it doesn't change the texture, the color doesn't matter. Just leaving your hair however it grows out of your scalp, leaving and appreciating that texture and finding value in it, even though it's not the European vision of what beauty standards should be.
I love it.
And that's where it came from back in the day. We come out with this big, beautiful hair, and in the Victorian age, they were like, oh no, because the men would just stare at the Black women with these elaborate hairstyles. And so the white women did not like that back then. So that's when, we started covering our hair, and if it wasn't long, silky down your back, it was ugly and all that negativity. But anyway, my definition is the same. It's interesting because when I used to go to work and I used to say, oh, my hair is natural, the white nurses that I work with would be like, but your locks are blonde. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, so that's not natural. I'm like, yeah, it is. It's my natural hair. What are you talking about? And they're like, but it's not your natural color. And I'm like, no, that's not what natural means. Just like when you would say Black people getting a perm versus white people getting a perm, two totally different things.
Totally different things.
One makes it straight, the other one gets it curly. So for me, natural means like the way my locks grow out, my natural hair. If I throw some honey blonde in it, I'm still natural. Like I don't have a chemical relaxer, texturizer, anything like that in my hair. So that's my definition. But I know for me, Thomasina and we share a commonality in that she mentioned it. I hadn't shared that yet, but I used to be married to a white man as well. And we did have some of the same issues as far as hair and different verbiage that we would use, but we had some infertility issues. When we were married, we did try for a little while to conceive, and it just wasn't really in the cards. And I remember talking to Thomasina, and I think that's around the time, is that around the time you went natural, or was it after that?
It's the timeline's a bit, when you're on these IVF meds, you don't even know what day it is. So the timeline's a bit screwy, but I know it was around the time where I was in my last year of CRNA school. And because of the stress of life in school, my hair was falling out anyway. So I feel like the spirits, you were already natural and encouraging me to go natural. And then my hair was trying to piece out anyway. So I feel like the spirits were like, bitch, you might as well just cut it off and start over because you don't know what the fuck you're doing. And with the requirements of school and not working full time like I had, because I was working 3 jobs before I started school. So to go from working 3 jobs to working 1 day a month, I could not afford to get my hair done time-wise or financially. So my hair was just, it was falling out. So I grew it out and then I cut it off.
Mm-hmm. And so when you started, so you were in CRNA school in 2014, 2015?
I graduated 2015. So I started 2013.
Okay. And did you guys start trying to conceive right after that? Right after you graduated?
We started, the story's a bit messed up. My plan, I'm a planner. My plan was we're going to graduate. I'm going to start working. We're going to get pregnant and we're going to have our kids and it's going to be done. That's not what happened. During CRNA school, we had some issues in our relationship that should have been addressed before I went to school, but I didn't know there were issues there. Neither one of us knew. We knew, but we didn't know they were as bad as they were. That's how I'll say it. So because of that, as he said, he wasn't really on board with me going natural because he just wasn't sure, like, what is it going to look like? He had already seen me a certain way, so he wasn't sure what it was going to look like, which I totally understand. And I was still on the fence. I wanted to do it, but there's always that fear of what is it going to look like? I haven't seen my hair natural in years because even when I was a kid and had natural hair, my mom would always straighten it with a hot comb, getting burned in the back of your neck, your ears getting jacked up, your forehead. I mean, we just tortured ourselves. During my last couple months of school, I found out that he was attempting to have an online affair. And one of the benefits about being mad is you no longer give a fuck about things that used to bother you before. So I was, he didn't really want me to go natural, and I kind of do. So you know what? No, we're gonna go natural. So I called my best friend's husband and I said, listen, because he cuts his own hair and he cuts his son's hair. And I said, are you going? he's like, oh, you know, I will be soon. I said, okay, so I'm going to be waiting for you. I need you to cut my hair. Because mind you, I didn't have the money for a barber and I didn't know how to find a barber. I didn't know what to do. And I said, so I need you to cut my hair. And if you don't want to do it or you can't do it or whatever, I'm going to do it myself. And I promise you, I'm going to fuck it up. So to not have me looking crazy, I suggest you do it since you know what you're doing. So I literally went to his house, sat in his kitchen, and he shaved it for me. And I just, even when I washed it for the first time and looked at myself in the mirror, I was just like, this was long overdue. This was long overdue. I don't even know who this person is looking at me in the mirror, but I cannot wait to get to know her, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Well,
I didn't even answer your question, but I'll answer your question.
I know you went like totally left with it, but it's always said, you know, you can tell a woman's going through change when she changes her hair.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we do tend to do that. And I'm not talking we just change color, you know, because that can change with the season or the month. But when we make a drastic change, you know, shaving it or cutting it by length, something has happened internally with us. And that is how we end up, you know, either dealing with it or that's our release transformation, you know, kind of sort of. So I know that answer did kind of go left.
Well,
but,
okay, I'll rewind. I like telling long stories. The reason why I initially wanted to go natural was because we wanted to have kids. And because of me being Black, him being white and Puerto Rican, there's a huge spectrum of hair textures that our kid has the potential of having. And I didn't want, one of my fears, I had had some weird dream. And in my dream, my hair was relaxed and my kid was mocha colored. I don't know how else to explain how else they look. This was a long time ago, but they were darker than Roberto. But their texture was more coily. It wasn't kinky curls, but my hair was straight because in my dream, my hair was relaxed. And I remember my kid in my dream coming home crying because they were getting made fun of because of their hair. And they said, well, why doesn't my hair look like yours or daddy's? And I said, I woke up and I was like, I don't, this doesn't fit me anymore. I need to show my kid that the way that they are is perfect enough. It's bad enough I have fake tits. Like our hair, something needs to be real. And I can't say, look at yourself in the mirror, you're good and perfect the way you are, the way God made you. And I've got fake tits and relaxed hair and weaves and, you know what I mean? Like there has to be a point where if I don't do it for myself, I have to do it for them. So that was kind of the motivation for me to go natural. And then when he pissed me the fuck off, it was just like, okay, bitch, we're doing it today. So that was, if I was in a relationship with a Black man and had kids with a Black man, I don't even think I would have thought of it, if that makes sense. Because it just would have been like, okay, you're going to get weaves or relax or your hair braided. Like, we're just going to switch it up all the time. And because you're a Black kid, as opposed to if I have a kid that's more on the white side, I have to kind of switch it up, if that makes sense.
So Roberto, do you want to comment any, because she just told us a whole lot in like 5 minutes. So she's told us that she was really stressed out during school and there was some allegations that she found out about. So would you like to tell your side of the story?
No, she's pretty much spot on.
You have trained him well.
I'm pleading the fifth.
No, it's definitely not even that. She's right. You know, these are a lot of things that I have to deal with internally, the mistakes I made that almost plunged our marriage. And, they're not easy things to grapple with. I have a bad habit of when I feel I'm attacking back. So, and not ever getting to the root of these things by attacking back, she's not wrong on any of that. They're deep regrets that I have to wrestle with and make myself better as a husband and as a life partner for her. So I can't, I really can't argue with a lot of it. Even if our sex life wasn't what I needed it to be, I could have been stronger as a man, and I could have just at least seen what she was doing and know that just give it time and be patient. And actually, I too take her feelings into account better, what she was going through, the help that she needed, and a lot of that as a man, we got these preconceived notions as being a man, so I don't even want to label it like that. Just doing the right thing. I messed up on a lot of that stuff, and I'm a very lucky person to still have her. And I just hope that I can continue to grow and evolve as a husband, as a person, and someone she needs in her life, because I do love her a ton. And I mean, that's all I can really say about that. But she's right about all that, for sure. If she was trying to piss me off with shaving her head, she didn't do that because she's gorgeous. So that didn't bother me. I think I was more messed up with my own hair, trying to decide, like, am I going to go with this thinning hair or go bald? So that was more of an internal strife for me than her hair, for sure. So, but no, other than that, she's spot on, and it's a lot of stuff that, it's a lot of pride that needs to be swallowed on my behalf, and staring at myself in the mirror at the end of the day to make sure that I'm doing the right thing, and make sure that I never make her feel that way again.
So it sounded like you had a plan, Thomasina, right? You had a plan in your head of what you wanted, how you wanted it, and you were doing the preparations for it. There was some, hiccups. Sound like that it ended up prolonging your journey. So what are, other than, kind of the situations that brought up, but what is your journey in having children? Where are you guys at now with having children then? And what did that journey look like?
Because of the infidelity attempts that came out in the beginning, there was a delay in us starting right away because obviously we were arguing. And I saw a divorce attorney. He had to get an attorney. Like, there was a lot of stuff that delayed things. And then just us trying to figure out, are we going to be together, or do we each go our separate ways? And we had broken up. I had told him get out. We had broken up. And then, like, the day before he was supposed to leave, I said, let's work things out. Or, you know what I mean? Like, there was just a lot. So then to even try to be intimate, because sex and intimacy are two different things.
Yeah.
So to try to be intimate with someone, because I'm imagining we're going to, years ago, we're going to have sex and it's going to be amazing. Because, you have friends who have kids and they tell you about, I knew when we had sex because my best friend, he told me he knew when he got his wife at the time pregnant, because he's like, that nut I busted just felt different. It was just more powerful. Like, all these stories you hear and you're just like, what the fuck? So I have all these visions about how it's going to be when we conceive. And it's like, I'm just laying there, like, counting the minutes till this fool can get off of me. You know what I mean? Like, it just wasn't what I thought it should be, because I wasn't in the right place emotionally in regards to our relationship because of what had happened. So then it's like, well, he can't come because I'm just laying there, like, totally not interested, like, literally, like, looking up at the wall. And it was just stupid. There was just a lot of wasted time. So then things get better, not good, but they're just better than being a piece of shit. So things get better. I'm still not getting pregnant. So one of my best friends is also going through infertility treatment. So she gives me her doctor's name. I go to see her doctor. And of course they're like, well, how long have you been trying? And I'm like, I'm supposed to say 6 months. And I was like, if we're being honest, it's been like a week of, like, really, like, let's like put your back into it and try. But she's like, well, it needs to be 6 months, but since you're here, let's do labs. Fine. They do labs, do all these tests. I get a bill for like $1,600. Bitch, blood is expensive when it's not in your body. Okay. So I'm like, what the fuck is this bill? So by the time I pay the bill, go on his insurance. No, his insurance didn't pay for infertility stuff. So I had to wait until the end of the year, open enrollment, to get on my insurance. By the time I go back to the doctor, it's like 8-9 months. She says, I'm so glad you're back because we think you may be in early menopause regarding your lab work. Bitch, what? I'm one of 17 kids. You got the wrong labs. That's what I told her. I said, you got the wrong labs. And she's looking at me like, no, I don't. And I said, I've paid a lot of money to not get pregnant. You have the wrong labs. I'm one of 17 kids because I thought kids falling out of your pussy was genetic. So I said, you got it fucked up. Now it starts the whole cascade of bullshit of getting tests done and invasiveness and all this other stuff. So she says, you're not a good IVF candidate, actually, but we can try if you want to. Okay, let's try. A month before we were supposed to go to our IVF appointment to start the cycle, I have this pain that I'm like, okay, my appendix, something's not right. Because of course, if you Google anything, the list of the differential diagnosis of what could be wrong, one of them is always death. So to me, I'm dying at all times. Anyone who knows me, at all times, at least once a week, I will tell you I am dying from something. So I'm like, okay, I'm dying. So I'm trying to buy a truck. I'm trying to buy all this shit on my credit so that when I die, I don't have to pay for it. It sounds so stupid out loud, but it's just, I was in such a bad place. So I ended up actually working with the reproductive endocrinologist. And I pulled her aside. I told her my symptoms. She goes, you know what, just come in to the lab tomorrow and get some lab work done and an ultrasound. Bitch, do you know I was pregnant? Happiest day of my life. Happiest day of my life. Had no idea. So I'm like running around work, screaming, crying, telling people because we're not supposed to do this, but I went into the computer and looked up my own fucking labs. I don't care. Bitch, it's my labs. I give consent to myself to look at my own shit. So I found out I was pregnant at work because I looked at my own labs. So what's funny is when I called, because my labs were positive, but they were on the low end of positive. So when I called, the lady was like, I was like, what do these labs mean? She goes, well, it means you're pregnant. And I was like, so wait, is it like an ectopic pregnancy or something? She goes, no, you're pregnant. Because mind you, she thought we were broken up still. I forgot to tell the reproductive lab that we got back together.
So they weren't sure who the baby daddy might be. All up in your business.
She's like, yeah, I know you guys aren't together. I'm like, no, that was before we got back together. She goes, wait. So is this a good thing? I'm like, bitch, you tell me. So I'm at work yelling this in the nurse's station.
God.
I said, am I pregnant or not? And she goes, yes, you're pregnant. I said, bitch. Okay, I don't have to walk about this job. So I'm like yelling and telling all these people at work, and I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even tell Roberto yet. So that
Oops.
so I'm like running through the halls telling all these people, and then I'm like, oh shit. So I'm leaving work and I'm calling him, and I was like, oh my God, I'm pregnant. He's like, oh my God, I still remember. He's like, oh my God, we did this on our own. And I just started crying. I was just like, all this stuff. Fast forward 5 days. Now, mind you, I was nausea. I was having all the symptoms, still had that pain. The day after we told my mom, I wake up the next day feeling great. No nausea, no pain, nothing, bitch. I was skipping to work. I don't skip to work. Bitch, I was skipping to work on this day, like Mary motherfucking Poppins. I had one more set of blood work to get done before I got discharged from the reproductive endocrinology group, and I was going to be transferred to a regular OBGYN group. Never have them call or check lab work when you're at work. They call me during break. Mind you, I'm like, oh, I can't go into the CR room. I'm pregnant. I'm with child. All this shit. No, bitch. Found out that day. The reason why I didn't have any more symptoms was because I was miscarrying. So here I am, like finding out on the phone as I'm in the hall going to give lunch breaks, which I don't like doing anyway. Finding out that I just miscarried, and it's like, how do I tell him? Like, that was the one thing that I remember distinctly. How do I tell him? And I called him. I never call him. I text him. I never call him. So he picks up the phone. He's like, my love. And as soon as he said that, I don't even remember what else he said, because I just started crying in the fucking hallway. And I couldn't even say the fucking words, because I felt like there was something I did wrong. I felt like there was something I did wrong, that I couldn't even do this for us. So I told him, and I could tell he was trying to keep it together, but I was already a fucking mess, so it didn't even matter at that point. And I was just like, I don't even know what I said, but I basically told him that I wasn't pregnant anymore and I lost a kid, and now I gotta be at this trifling ass fucking job and act like everything's okay. But because you gotta keep your game face on, and it's just whatever. There was always something weird that I understood where my mom was coming from, but I feel like to some extent she did a disservice, not meaning to, but she was always like, you got to be strong. The world is not going to be kind to you as a Black person in this country. You have to be strong. Don't let anyone see you cry. Don't show emotion. Like, you go to work. Work is everything. Like, your job, if without your job, you're nothing. She used to always tell us that. And one thing that I noticed during this infertility journey is that's not okay. I should have left. I should have done for me at that point. He should have called out of work and left work. I should have called out of work and left work. And we should have been home dealing with this together, not trying to act like everything's okay and go out, throughout our day while we had a loss. And yeah, I wasn't 8 or 9 months pregnant. The timeline doesn't matter. This wasn't just a loss of a fetus or an embryo or whatever the fuck it qualifies as because I was only 5 weeks pregnant, like people like to tell me. This was my dreams, my hopes, everything that I had worked for. This was a loss of all of that. I could have been some asshole at home doing nothing with my life and just living off other people's money. I busted my ass, and I have 4 college degrees because I wanted to look my kid in the face and say, don't ever let anyone tell you can't do something. And here I am, knowing that I lost that kid that was the reason for me doing everything, and I'm supposed to function and act like everything's okay and go to work. It's not okay. It's not okay. I owe myself a huge apology for ever putting myself through that. I should have never done that. It won't happen again, I'll tell you that now. Even though the second miscarriage, I still went to work that day too. See, we've learned a lot. We have definitely learned a lot. And there are a lot of things that I did back in the day that, trust and believe, I would never do to myself today. If that's why I had to have these miscarriages to prove that to me, then so be it. But I've learned a lot. The shit won't happen again. I don't remember what the question was.
No, I think you answered it, Roberto, and thank you for sharing that, Thomasina. And obviously, Roberto, you still, even hearing the story again, have some reaction to that. What can you share briefly what your thoughts were that day?
When you work in manufacturing, it's very toxic. So they call it, toxic masculinity type of thing, atmosphere. So crying in that place is just not something you can do. So I just tried to go, and this has happened so many times between losing this kid, almost losing her, damn near destroying my marriage. Stuff later with having a foster kid. There's so many times where I had to go somewhere to just cry at work where no one would see me because it's just a tough thing. And this loss is still at times feel very raw to me. And I don't know, I feel like at times there's more I could have done, but I can't do what she won't allow me to do or anything like that. So I just tried to be there for her the best I could. And I know that she would take it as her fault. And it so wasn't. And this loss is just it's still something between us for sure. And she's so right. I should have left work, but I don't know why I didn't either. So it's still definitely heavy. It's still heavy, the loss of our, as we call him, Simba.
I see that. I see, and it's still, you know what, but that is something that may never go away. You know, that's an experience you all had. And, you know, I congratulate you on how it has helped you grow. You know, and you know, sometimes we experience things in life and we, you know, like Thomasina, like you said, maybe I had to go through that to learn a lesson. And, you know, we don't like the way the lessons are taught to us, for sure. You know, like, damn, couldn't that have happened a different way? Like I could have learned that a different way, you know, especially when it's emotionally, you know, overbearing for us. But we do end up coming out of it stronger, hopefully. You know, I can't say that for everybody. Sometimes it doesn't, especially losing a child, you know, having those miscarriages. Some people are able to move on from that. We've seen, you know, historically, we know marriages have ended because, you know, couples can't recoup off of the emotions off of that, you know. So the fact that you guys are still together and still, so are you still trying?
Oh,
Or-
yes, girl.
yeah, still trying. Good. So you
Will
haven't.
not be denied.
Good. So you're still striving and still trying and, you know, still feeling it, but, you know, using it to, you know, make you stronger and continue this journey. So I applaud you for that, for sure.
Thank you.
You know, so it's amazing how we started out in talking about natural hair and how that led us to infertility and our, you know, your journey of childbearing. How amazing, you know, I don't think people realize those kind of changes in our life, how they're end up being connected. And to, you know, end a story like that is tremendous. So I thank you for being transparent about your journey and your emotions and definitely being vulnerable with us today. I absolutely appreciate that.
Well,
Thank you for having
me.
us.
Absolutely.
Crystal, would you like to sign off on anything? Any last final thoughts?
No, I think that, well, I'll say yes. And thank you guys so much for being vulnerable and being willing to share your story with us. We definitely have to have you on another episode because I know what happened after this. So if you're willing to share, you know, later, I think the people would really like to know, you know, kind of what came about after these losses. So thank you guys so much for joining us on this week's episode. And I wish you many love and blessings and baby success. So
No, this one's breaking stuff.
oh, thank you.
All right.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you again. We thank our guests, Thomasina and Roberto. Thomasina can be found on IG at Ariel Coco Fire with a Y. I have to always tell people that. And Roberto, who remains to be nameless on social media. This is a production of RMK Productions. Thank you again for joining us on BFF Black, Fabulous, and 40. I am one of your co-hosts, Kaisha.
And I'm Crystal.
And we will see you next week.